Hey guys, Captain Dylan Hubbard here at Hubbard's Marina with a quick video on barotrauma. So right now, red grouper is closed, and even when red grouper is open, we still catch a lot of fish offshore that require the use of barotrauma mitigation tools and techniques. It's so important when you're offshore fishing to make sure you're handling that fish in the proper, safe manner to produce that fish to be able to go back down to bottom and live another day, get bigger, and allow you to catch him when he or she is open and in season and able to be harvested. So one of the biggest things you can do to mitigate barotrauma is making sure you get the fish up quickly. Once you get him up quickly, you got to get him off the hook quickly and then get him back in the water quickly. So really important to reel him up fast. Once he's up, unhook him fast and then get him back in the water quickly. But before you get him back in the water, you want to make sure that you've mitigated the barotrauma effect to that fish. There's two main ways to do that, either a venting tool or descending device. A descending device is super easy. Virtually anybody can use a descending device. Like a sequelizer, all you have to do is clip it onto the fish's mouth with a heavy weight and send it back down at least 1/3 of the water that you're fishing. So if you're fishing in 100 foot, you'd want to send them down about 30, 35, 40 foot of water. If you're fishing in 300 foot, you'd want to send them down about 100 foot. And once he gets down about 1/3 of the water depth, then he's recompressed enough that descending device can release the fish, and then he's able to swim back down to the bottom super healthily without a puncture wound. A venting tool is your secondary option in the hands of a very experienced angler that knows where to vent that fish and make sure they choke up on the venting tool to make sure you're not over puncturing the fish. Then a venting tool has the same success rate, if not the same or better than a descending device. However, it's super important to get them up quickly, get them off the hook quickly, and get them back in the water quickly. So if you could do that with the venting tool more quickly or a descending device more quickly, that should be your tool of choice. Really important to make sure we're mitigating barotrauma. Don't let fish go floating off into the distance and let them go to waste. Return them right, as you could say. There's a new media campaign going on right now. It's hashtag Return 'em Right. ReturnEmRight.org is the website. There's tons of information, resources, videos on how to mitigate barotrauma, how to avoid it by using either a descending device or a venting tool. You can also go to the Fishing for Our Future part of the Gulf Council website. There's a lot of information there. You can Google how to vent a fish, Hubbard's Marina, and the Salt Strong article and video that we did will come up there, and you'll be able to watch that too. But if you're using a venting tool, make sure you choke up on the device. If you're using a descending device, find one that works for you. There's tons of descending devices out there on the market. The sequelizer is the most common, most well-known, but it is a little pricey because it's super fancy. There are other cheaper options. You can use a milk crate, for example, weighting the edge of a milk crate and putting a line on it. You can use a milk crate just fine too. There's inverted hooks. There's a lot of different options as far as a descending device goes. So don't think you have to stick to that sequelizer tool, but it is super common. I recommend the sequelizer. It's easy to use, and you're able to set different depths very easily from the sequelizer device, so you don't have to send the fish all the way to the bottom, which saves you some time. Also, if you're using a descending device, make sure you use a lot of weight. I hear a lot of people talking about, oh, a descending device is just a dolphin feeder or a shark feeder, and it allows predators to come up and eat the fish right off the descending device. Part of the release mortality symposium that the Gulf Council and NOAA Fisheries held, I was blessed to be the chair of the Outreach and Education Committee, and part of that release mortality symposium was some scientific research that was done by Marcus Dryman, and they actually sent video cameras down on descending devices. They put video cameras down on natural releases, venting releases, and it actually showed improved that using a descending device doesn't increase predation. It can actually decrease predation if you're using a heavy enough weight. So if you know there's porpoise around or sharks around, use a heavier weight, a 1, 2, 3, even a 5-pound weight, especially with bigger fish. If you catch a 20-pound red snapper or a 60, 80, 100-pound amberjack or a monster 40, 50, 60-pound gag grouper, it's gonna take a 5-pound weight to send that fish back down to bottom because of the excess gas that the fish has built up on its way to the surface. The bigger the fish, the more they fight and the more time they have for that barotrauma effect to build up in the fish, because the quicker you get them up, the less barotrauma effect they're gonna have. So a bigger fish takes more time to get up, which means it's gonna have more barotrauma effects. You have to work even harder to mitigate those effects. So make sure that you're doing the best you can to produce those fish a great ability to survive another day, get bigger, and stay healthy so you can catch them when they're open, in season, and ready to be harvested. And especially when there's fisheries closed like red grouper. We're seeing a lot of juvenile red grouper out there. Even when the fishery was open, in order to catch 10 keeper red grouper, you had to catch 20, 30, 40, 50 short red grouper because the fishery's so healthy. There's so many fish out there, especially juvenile fish that are about to enter the fishery. We want to make sure that those fish can survive until they are large enough to enter the fishery. And what I mean by that is they're large enough to reach keeper size. So take care of those fish, mitigate barotrauma. One of the biggest tips that I can give you is the first spot of the day. Get anchored up, get set up for your drift, however you plan to fish. The first fish you catch, throw it in the water, close to the boat, within reaching distance of a net, and see if it goes back down. If it goes back down super healthy, you know you don't have to worry about venting and descending each fish. But if you throw that test fish in the water and it starts floating away and it can't swim to the bottom, that's a surefire sign. The rest of the time at that fishing spot, you're gonna need to use your barotrauma mitigation devices, either a venting tool or descending device. Remember, in the summertime when the water's hot, there's less dissolved oxygen, which means the chances for barotrauma exponentially increase. As the water gets colder, there's more dissolved oxygen, so the chances for barotrauma effects get smaller and smaller. So colder water, less barotrauma, hotter water, more barotrauma, deeper water, more barotrauma. A lot of people are like, dude, you catch a fish in 200, 300 foot of water, it's got no shot no matter what you do. That's wrong too. And I believed once you catch a fish in 400 foot, it's got bulging eyes, its intestines are coming out of its anal cavity, the scales are all bulged out, it doesn't look like that fish is gonna survive. Well, that's been proven wrong through all these scientific research trips that have been going on in the Gulf of Mexico. A buddy of mine, Captain Steve Papin, was out there with the FWC and they caught a Kitty Mitchell in about 430 some foot of water. Reeled it up, took a long time to get it in. They caught it on light tackle using a slow pitch jig. They got it in. Used a venting tool and descending device to mitigate that barotrauma. They put a tag in that fish. Like 6-8 months later, it was caught in over 600 foot of water, plenty healthy. It had grown. It was a super healthy fish. And that proves even in 400 plus foot of water, a descending device can allow that fish to survive and fight another day and allow another angler to catch it and keep it. So make sure you mitigate barotrauma, get those fish up quickly, use a good de-hooking tool. Don't use a pair of needle nose pliers to do oral surgery on that fish and ruin its gill rakers. A pair of de-hooking tools will definitely help you a lot, increase your unhooking ability and make it even more quick. A good de-hooking tool is key. And then making sure you have that barotrauma mitigation device handy, ready, and in reach is always, always helpful. So get out there on the water, go catch plenty of fish, and make sure you mitigate that barotrauma you encounter offshore. Tight lines, don't forget, if you're too busy to go fishing, You're just too darn busy. Well, thanks for listening to our intro video there. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Welcome to our Sunday night live stream show. That's right, it's Sunday night, and it is time to launch into that live stream show tonight. We've got a good one lined up for you. Got some photos to show you, some fishing to talk about, weather, all that good stuff. Plus, we answer your questions live during the show. If you text us at that phone number on the bottom corner there, we'll answer your questions live during the show, and we give away free stuff all in this hour-long live stream show. That's right. It's Sunday night, and it's the Hubbard's Marina live Q&A show, so hopefully you guys are ready for a great time and a good show. Tim Harris, what's up, buddy? Appreciate those 1,000 stars and everybody else who are sending stars during the video, like Richard Blasak. I know Ashley did, some others too. Appreciate everybody who sent stars. Those stars are a way for people watching on Facebook to kind of show their support, and it helps us to do more cool stuff with our live stream show. Thanks, Larry White. Appreciate you, man. Now, let's start the show off and show you guys what we've been seeing here around Johns Pass Inshore. We've definitely been seeing some good fish, and definitely been having some action going on around the area despite some of the water issues that we've been seeing. We definitely have the mackerel around the area. A lot of mackerel are starting to show up. There's tons and tons of bait around right now. If you can find clean water and bait, you're going to find plenty of hungry mackerel, Spanish mackerel, and then plenty of Jack Crevalle too. Jack Crevalle have really dominated and moved into the area. We've got lots of these mangrove snapper around lately. The mangrove snapper have been prolific around most any dock, structure, bridge, rock pile, just about anywhere we're seeing plentiful mangrove snapper. We're also seeing the redfish. The redfish bite has been good around Johns Pass. We're seeing redfish around the bridge, around the dock, just basically looking for that clean water. The end of the incoming tide seems to be the best time when you get that clean water pushing in from the Gulf. Also, early morning, that's the trick, right around sunrise, just before sunrise. Also, late afternoon has been working too, but through the day, you're still able to pick at them. Just definitely more action seems to be in the early morning, late afternoon, and through the nighttime period. The guys fishing underneath the Johns Pass Bridge and around bridge lights, dock lights, definitely been catching more redfish. Look at this guy, even caught a redfish. And we've been seeing a lot of sheep's head too. The sheep's head have really started to pick up quite a bit around the area. We've got fiddler crabs at the dock, which have been helping quite a bit. And Joe and Luke from Salt Strong are even catching those sheep's head on their artificial shrimp soft plastic bait too. So definitely a good sheep's head bite around the area mixed in with those mangrove snapper too. We're still seeing plenty of snook. Snook have really been biting best when we get that clean water. You really got to look for that clean water. I've gotten to the point now where when the water is dark, we're not even really messing with them because most of the time they're not even willing to bite. They're just kind of transversing the area and getting away from that darker water. When the water gets kind of lighter green colored, that's when they're ready to eat. We've been seeing a lot of trout around those deeper flats, those potholes, those edges of the grass flats. Definitely more back bay area, but at night around bridge lights, dock lights, we've been seeing those trout too. And that's about it inshore as far as what we've been seeing biting well, what we've been seeing lately out there on the water. We've also been seeing some good action near shore. We've been seeing some good lane snapper action and mangrove snapper, good stuff like that. Unfortunately, the red grouper have closed. We're still seeing some of those red grouper around, of course, but unfortunately, they're having to go back right now. So we're catching the red grouper, but having to toss them back. The hub has been doing really well on plentiful lane snapper. but of course still catching a few of those red grouper mixed in. And what I mean by really well, I wanted to share this. This is a 55-gallon drum loaded to the top with porgies, gray snapper, a few mangroves, and tons of lane snapper. This was from a 10-hour private charter on the hub. Look at that table, cutting table full of lanes.
That's a nice table.
Yeah, right? Nice table full of lanes. There's a couple mangroves there at the end. And this is a 10-hour private charter with a lot of guests that don't fish often. So if we had some more experienced anglers on the boat, that bite was so hot, they probably would have caught a lot more of mangrove snapper too. But can't argue with a table full of lane snapper. That's a great catch. And flying Hub 2 today on the 12-hour extreme trip did pretty well, catching some nice mangrove snapper there. Nice scamp grouper. Unfortunately, they caught some nice red grouper that had to be caught and released. Not catched and released, caught and released. But we're seeing some hogfish around as well. Hogfish bites still fairly slow overall, but definitely just a few weeks away from that hogfish bite going nuts. So we're very excited about the hogfish bite picking up here shortly. And hopefully it just gets better and better and better. But all has to do with the weather. The weather is going to be the biggest key factor lately. Most of the time, we're going to see that weather start to chill out here, especially with that first cold front of the year coming this Thursday. That first cold front of the year coming this Thursday is going to start that water cooling down, and then hopefully we'll start seeing those cold fronts a little bit more frequently. We'll see the overall humidity drop out, and we'll start to see that water temperature come down slowly. And then as it comes down, that's when those hogfish are going to start chewing better and better and better for us. And then we'll also see those gag groupers start moving around and getting more aggressive for us too. So excited. Plus, we've got kingfish. They're just around the corner from their fall run, not spring run. But definitely very close to that kingfish fall run as well. So we've already got plentiful mackerel. Typically that full moon around late September, early October is when the kingfish start showing up. And we've got a full moon Monday, plus we've got our first cold front of the year coming Thursday. So both of those things back to back, I have a feeling we're going to see our first few kingfish of our fall run of near shore kingfish, most likely probably coming sometime by the end of September. So exciting stuff. A lot of kind of moving parts to it. Overall, wind and waves are beautiful over the course of the next week. So really great time to get out there on the water. Not really anything to show you weather-wise other than the fact that we have a cold front that tries to push into the area, but it doesn't really get here. That's Thursday. So we're not going to really see that adverse weather from the cold front because it doesn't really make it all the way down here. It starts to pretty much break apart or stall out and not really be much of anything. And it doesn't really even make it to the area. So we're not going to see much from this cold front, but it's definitely going to get knocking on our doorstep here come end of this week. But that means we don't see the bad weather associated with that front. So that's really, really good. A few people have been saying that their feed keeps freezing. I saw Sean Porchkey said he couldn't see the photos. On our end, it is working great, and we haven't seen anybody really comment anything other than that, except for maybe 2 or 3 of you guys. So if you're having trouble seeing the stream, try refreshing your page or exiting out and coming back in on a different device, because on our end, everything is working great, and hopefully it stays that way. Fingers crossed. But we are live on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. If you're watching on Instagram, don't forget, you can go to Instagram.com. And if you're watching from Instagram.com, you're going to have much better results when you turn your phone sideways. You'll be able to see that full screen. If you're watching on the Instagram app, it's not going to let you turn the phone sideways and get that full screen view. So just keep that in mind. If you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, obviously you don't have that issue. Some events coming up that we wanted to make you aware of. Our friends over at The Real Animals. If you don't know it yet, we are now the full-time Real Animals co-host of the Saturday morning Real Animals show. That's every Saturday morning from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. We have our Real Animals fishing conversation coming up Tuesday, this coming Tuesday, from 6:30 to 8 p.m. That's at Furman, Newport Richey. However, that is not going to be in person. So the Furman NPR Real Animals radio show that's coming up this Tuesday is going to be virtual only. So keep that in mind. Don't show up to Furman, Newport Richey this Tuesday. Just tune in to the Real Animals Facebook page. That's going to be where you get to take part in that Tuesday fishing conversation. Also coming up Saturday, October 9th from 5:30 to 11 o'clock, we've got the CCA Star Tournament Awards Banquet. That's Saturday, October 9th from 5:30 to 11. Hopefully we'll see you there for that. Then Saturday, October 23rd, we have the Tampa Bay Fishing Club cleanup. That's going to be at the Gandy Bridge. We're going to be picking up trash, cleaning up the area, and we're going to be giving away free Hubbard's Marina fishing trips if you come out and join us. That is the Tampa Bay Fishing Club cleanup, Saturday, October 23rd from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Hopefully you can join us for that event. Again, we're going to be giving away free trips there. And then Thursday, November 11th, we've got the CCA Pinellas Banquet. And yours truly is honored this year to be the featured captain. So if you go to that Thursday, November 11th, Pinellas CCA Banquet, when you get there, everybody gets assigned a table to eat. And then the tables have the option to enter a raffle. And if you win the raffle, your whole table moves up to what's called the captain's table. And instead of just a steak dinner, you get steak and lobster. And I get to sit with you. So pretty cool little event they have going. And they sell a dinner date with me. So pretty awesome. Good way to show your support for CCA and all the great habitat restoration projects they got going on. And you get to eat steak and lobster. And there's firearms being raffled off. I mean, just can't be. And there's an open bar. So you've got whiskey, steak, lobster, firearms. What more could you ever want? And bring your wife. It's a great event. My wife always enjoys it. They do silent auctions for vacation, art, a whole bunch of cool stuff. But just keep in mind, if you bring your wife, it will cost you some money because they do have really, really cool stuff there. So with that, we've got through our events. One thing I did want to remind you guys about is our online store. Hubbard's Marina has pretty much blown it out of the water when it comes to our online store. We went from a frankly somewhat embarrassing online store to totally bad to the bone online store. We've got over 600 units on our online store now, so it's really, really incredible how many different products and features that online store has. So definitely check it out if you haven't already. Go to hubbardsmarina.com and then click shop and Marina store, and you're going to be able to see all the great products that we have on our online store. Also, YouTube, we've started a supporters group on YouTube. So now there's the Facebook supporters group. And for those of you who don't have Facebook and you normally watch on YouTube, there is a supporter option on Facebook or on YouTube. So now you can join the YouTube supporters group right from our YouTube channel. There's a button to join. And when you join, it gives you the option to become a supporter on YouTube. And if you become a supporter on YouTube, you get a supporter shirt just like those who joined our Facebook supporters group. And tonight's supporter after show is not only going to stream to our Facebook supporters group, but it's also going to stream to our YouTube supporters group. So the supporters after show is grown and grown different channels. So pretty cool. We're excited about that. And we're going to be doing some more YouTube supporter stuff soon. And basically, if you join the Facebook supporters group or the YouTube supporters group, you're going to have the same stuff. So don't sit there and think that you're going to have to join both to get features of one or the other. I mean, you're welcome to join both if you'd like. I mean, we're not going to tell you no, but it's going to be essentially the same thing. Also want to remind everybody the 12-hour night snappers, they've had super light loads. They've been doing really well out there too, catching some nice mangrove snapper, lane snapper, vermilions. Captain Garrett's been running a majority of those trips. This last one, I believe, Captain Bobby ran, and he did well too. So great time out there on those 12-hour night mangrove snapper trips. This coming Monday is the full moon, so this week, probably Tuesday, Wednesday, is going to be a great option to get out there on the water. On the backside of the full moon, prior to that first cold front of the year approaching the area, I would assume probably Tuesday, Wednesday are going to be your best days to fish this week. The 39-hour trip, Tuesday, great option. Only about 35 people on it. Got some good people, too, going out there. A lot of regulars. So it should be a great group of people and some stellar fishing right prior to the first cold front of the year on the backside of that full moon. So I highly recommend the Tuesday 39-hour trip. If you're looking for something to do this week, that's the way to go for sure. Amberjack bite has slowed down, but we should still have a chance at it. And definitely hunting after those gag grouper, scamp grouper, mangrove snapper, yellowtail snapper, amberjack, almaco jacks, porgies. You have a good shot at kingfish. The tuna bite's been getting really good offshore too. And you might even see that occasional wahoo. So definitely a great 39-hour option coming up this week. Also, don't forget, we started our Twitter. We've got a Twitter page. We've got TikTok now. And we've been TikToking hard. So if you haven't checked out our TikTok page, it's pretty cool. It's basically, for those of you who watch on Facebook and YouTube, we kind of do those morning videos on Facebook and YouTube where we kind of give our fishing and weather updates, and we kind of talk, and we show you the sunrise too. TikTok is a lot like that with no talking. It's just like a 20-30 second clip of some beautiful morning views set to some music, and occasionally we might see something cool through the day that we also throw up there too. So kind of more of a scenery page than anything, but we've also been uploading it to our Facebook and Instagram stories as well, so you can always check it out there. But if you want to see it uncut, check it out on TikTok, and don't forget to follow Hubbard's Marina on Snapchat, Twitter, and TikTok. Those are our 3 new social medias, and Pinterest too. We've got 4 new social medias, so got it all going on. And LinkedIn. You can check us out on LinkedIn. We've got a new partnership with a professional film production team. I really wanted to show you guys the sneak preview of the intro because it's so cool. They literally just, I'm not doing TikTok dances. Sorry, Jonathan. But they sent us a sneak preview of the intro to this video. So just literally the loading process from the, I think it was the September 3rd trip they went on. And it was literally just people loading onto the boat. And I was so excited watching it. They made it seem so cool and exciting. So if they can make the loading process of a 39-hour seem really flashy and exciting, I can't wait to see what they do with the rest of the video. So that's going to be coming soon to our YouTube channel, so make sure you keep an eye out for that one. Jim Evans, appreciate those stars, buddy. And then that's all I got announcement-wise. I think we're ready to give away our first free trip of the night. We're going to give away our 10-hour all-day for 2 guests, 10-hour all-day for 2 guests. Coming at you now. That is a $218 value, absolutely free. So who won? Rick Rogers from Littleton, Colorado. Congratulations, Rick. If you were picked as that lucky winner, you got to text us at that phone number down there in the corner to claim your free trip. So, Rick, make sure you text us your full home address to that phone number down there in the corner within 5 minutes to claim that your free trip and prove you're watching live. All right, Josh, let's get into some questions here and see what the people want to talk about. What do you guys want to talk about tonight? What are your questions that we got going on here? What is the best time of day to snook fish, and what bait will work during the middle of the day? Middle of the day, I would probably use cut dead bait, cut mullet, cut ladyfish, even a cut thread fin on the bottom adjacent to some structure where they can get shade, whether you're skipping that underneath the overhang of a mangrove shoreline or underneath a dock or around a bridge where water is moving. Water's got to be moving, there's got to be some shade, and it's got to be somewhere where there's some bait and kind of presence of fish action going on. But dead bait is definitely your best bet during the day when it's hotter and those fish are more lethargic. At night, early morning, around dusk, the live bait option is a good one. Live pinfish, live shrimp, even small live pass crabs, the soft plastic paddle tails, the soft plastic imitation shrimp, all great options too. But probably would go dead bait, cut dead bait on the bottom during the day when the water is warm. What's biting around Christmas time on the party boats? I would say around Christmas time, the two main things we got going on is near shore, we've got the hogfish bite going, and then offshore and deeper water, we've got the gag grouper bite fired up. So 10 hours got a chance for gag groupers, 12-hour extremes, 39-hour trips are typically doing really well on gag grouper around Christmas time. But around Christmas time, we get real busy. So basically, middle of August, September, October, first half of November, we're extremely slow, especially during the week. Trips are light, loads are light, plenty of room on the boats. Weekends, we still get a little busy from time to time. But around end of November, around Thanksgiving, it gets a little busy. First half of December is pretty slow typically, and then end of December around Christmas time, basically a week before, and then the week between Christmas and New Year's is just crazy town. Everybody's in town. Everybody wants to get out there on the water. So definitely book early and book what you want, because those trips will fill up. What inshore fish now in the next month are you able to keep and harvest? Right now, I would be targeting mackerel, sheep's head, and mangrove snapper, and maybe flounder inshore. Those would be 4 species that you can catch and keep. Pompano are starting to bite well, and they're able to be harvested too. So pompano, mangrove snapper, sheep's head, mackerel, all good options to target right now. Fishing around bridges, dock lines for those sheep's head with fiddler crabs is a great option, and we do have fiddler crabs at the marina right now. Will the catch and release for snook, trout, and redfish end, or do you think they'll extend it again? I have no idea. I stay very involved in federal water fisheries because that's where we make a living. Snook, redfish, and trout is not what we make a living doing. It's what we enjoy doing when we're not offshore, but I have stayed out of that on purpose because people feel super passionate about it, and to me it's a lose-lose. If I get involved and give my opinion, some people really get upset, other people don't mind it, and ultimately there's so many opinions on that and so many people involved in the process that me getting involved is only going to hurt basically my ability to navigate the processes. Whereas federal waters fisheries, there's really not anybody from our area super involved in it. So I really emphasize myself there because I feel that's where I'm most needed. There are a few people that are involved in it. I don't mean any offense to any of those people, but I really am super active in the federal waters fishery management. So snook, redfish, and trout, basically what you need to know about that is early October. I believe it's around the 7th and 8th, 6th, 7th, or 8th. It's typically a 2-day meeting, somewhere in that range. You can just Google FWC Commission Meetings 2021, and it will give you the list of FWC Commission meetings and when they are. And I know I looked it up today. You have to submit public comment prior to 5 p.m. October 1st. So if you want to give public comment on snook, redfish, and trout, you can go to the meeting, which is going to be held in St. Augustine, or you can submit written public comment on those fisheries and species prior to 5 p.m. October 1st. So keep that in mind. I know someone asked about Goliath grouper too. FWC's also talking about Goliath grouper, potentially opening a season on Goliath grouper. I was pretty darn active in that the last couple years because I had high hopes and prayers that they would do a very limited scientific harvest of Goliath grouper, because in order to do a really good stock assessment on a species, you have to have what's called age and growth composition data. In order to have age and growth composition data, you have to have dead fish, because when they get a dead fish carcass, they chop a little line in the top of the head, and they go inside the top of the skull of the fish, and they pull out what's called an otolith. There's 2 otolith bones in there, and they're the ear bones of the fish, and they literally saw them in half and make little cross sections, and then they use a microscope to count the rings, and they can age a fish just like you could age a tree with the little growth rings of the tree. Same thing is how they age a fish. Plus, they use different methods, and they can actually test for different isotopes, and they can tell what general region the fish was, where it fed, what it ate even sometimes too. So really cool information that they can glean when they have a dead fish to work on. And they don't get enough dead fish naturally to get that scientific information and to build a data set large enough to pass a peer-reviewed independent stock assessment, because they can't just do a stock assessment and say, this is what we think about this fishery. They do a stock assessment, and then they have a third-party independent peer review process that goes through the scientific data and the assessment methodology, and they rubber stamp it and say, this is a valid scientific approach to coming to your answer. So we say okay, and then it moves into managers' hands, and then the managers get to make decisions based on the science. At the federal level, you have the assessment process, third-party peer review, then it goes to the SSC, or Science and Statistical Committee, and they interpret the science, because that's a body made up of science. Then they give recommendations to the overall OFL, or overfishing limit, then the ABC, or acceptable biological catch, and then the assessment information is transmitted to managers for management decisions, where managers set the ACL and then the ACT. So that's how that works at the federal level. There's an extra step in there at the federal level, and everything takes a long time because their meetings are at least 30 days out. To have a federal meeting, that has to be posted in the Federal Register notice for at least 30 days. Yada, yada, yada. It's definitely a long, drawn-out thing. So real quick, Josh, let me grab the mouse from you. I want to pull up this real quick. See if I can navigate to it with my little eyes. Oh, nope, I missed it. There's something in there in this folder. It's called OFL ABC examples. There it is.
You got it?
Yeah, I got it. Look at me go. So proud. So this is what I was talking about. So this over here is the OFL, or the overfishing limit. It's the upper bounds. That's set by the SSC based on the assessment data. And then the SSC, or Science and Statistical Committee, I always have trouble saying that, sets also the ABC. Then the council, the Gulf Council, gets that information from the assessment and the SSC, and they set the ACL, or annual catch limit. The council can set the ACL equal to the ABC, or acceptable biological catch, but it cannot exceed the scientific recommendation for the ABC. So they can set it equal, or they can set it a little lower to add a buffer. And then some fisheries, they even set another buffer and manage to the ACT, or annual catch target. So for example, for federal for-hire red snapper, we have, for ease of use, let's say the overfishing limit's 1,000 pounds. It's split, the overfishing limit's 2,000 pounds. The acceptable biological catch might be 1,500 pounds. Then the council will come in and they'll say, well, we're going to put another little buffer on there. The ACL is actually 1,200 pounds. Then they split it between sectors, and then the sectors will each have their own ACLs. So then the commercial guys will get 600 pounds, recreational guys will get 600 pounds, and then it's split 60-40. So of the recreational 600 pounds, then 60% goes to private recs, 40% goes to for hire. So let's say out of 600, 40%, let's call it 250 for ease of use. So the federal for hire is now, in this example, left with 250 pounds. But then we're buffered down from our ACL to our ACT by 9%. So then that 250 pounds becomes 220 pounds. And then we're given a season. And unlike state-managed FWC fishermen, who a lot of times the private rec red snapper season will get extended at the end of the year, due to the current data system we're in, we don't have that flexibility at the federal level. So we're given a season, and if there's bad weather and we don't get to land that fish, and because of bad weather we have to cancel days, that 220 pounds, we might only land 180 pounds of it, and we don't get an extended season. The last 4 years, the federal for-hire fleet has not reached their ACT. Last time we did was in 2017, and we just barely got to it. Went about 1% over. Didn't even get close to our ACL. We have not even approached our ACL since the inception of Amendment 40 in 2014. So very, very accountable and sustainable fishery in the federal for-hire fleet lately. And now, with our new Seafire program and electronic reporting, going to be even more accountable and sustainable. What was the question? Josh, I think it's time to give away our second free trip of the night. Let's give away our 5-hour half day for 2 guests. Let's give away a 5-hour half day for 2 guests. Let's see who won a 5-hour half day for 2. That's a $130 value. Goes to Bob Demmel from Virginia Beach. Now, Bob, don't forget, you got to claim that free trip by claiming it within about 5 minutes. You got to text that phone number within 5 minutes, your full home address, to claim that free trip. So don't forget to do that, guys. And also, let's see here. What other questions do we have? Is fishing ballyhoo good on your 39-hour trip? Yeah, ballyhoo is a great option on our long-range trips. We definitely catch some fish trolling ballyhoo, but I mean, typically you can catch just as many fish trolling skirts or trolling hardware, like the plugs or the planers and the spoons, or just the lipped plugs, or the Shimano Bonita or the Nomad Mad Max. All great options. We actually have a ton of trolling tackle that we suggest listed on our online store. So that's a great way to check what we suggest and what works well on those 39-hour trips. How close are you to seeing an open season on Goliath grouper? FWC has talked about it. That's what the question was. They talked about it a lot, but basically we haven't gotten anywhere with Goliath grouper, because every time they talk about opening a season on them, people come out of the woodwork
like the last time they talked about it, like every diver in the world called in to the FWC and said, don't open it. And every environmental group in the whole world came out. Even Guy Harvey himself called into the FWC meeting to say, don't open it. CCA Florida said, don't open it. Basically, everybody in the game said, don't open Goliath Grouper, which is super frustrating. I think we need to have a very limited harvest, like 150, 200, 250 fish, however many we need to have a good age and growth composition data set. That's how many we need to take out of the Gulf. And then it's mandatory, in my opinion, or it should be, that you have to turn in the carcass to the scientists. Maybe they could have different drop-off points, like every 100 miles down the beach or something. That way, if you buy a tag and you kill a Goliath grouper, you got to turn in the carcass. That way, they get their age and growth composition data. That would solve a lot of problems. And Chris Hargis is talking about a $500 Goliath grouper tag. That's the problem with social media. And I've seen it so much this past week with fisheries management and some of the announcements of closures. That was a proposal in a draft plan that's going to be discussed at an FWC meeting. That is not the rule. That was not even finalized, not even voted on yet. That is just the draft proposal set by FWC staff, hasn't been discussed. So don't let things get away from you on social media. I saw someone was trying to tell me that there's a meeting at the federal fisheries level where they're going to talk about closing gag grouper and mangrove snapper on the 25th. I'm like, no, bro. That's an SSC meeting where they just look at the science behind mangrove snapper and gag grouper. They don't make management decisions or regulations. And it's very frustrating how social media can sometimes propagate incredibly wrong information.
And it spreads.
And it spreads like wildfire. And people are like, oh my gosh.
I believe
This post
online.
the other day literally was, they're going to close down gag grouper, mangrove snapper, and flounder. I'm like,
let me guess.
They haven't even mentioned any of that. Where are you getting this information from?
Guess. Enter your email to find out more.
It was very interesting that this information can just start spreading on these fishing groups that is just so incorrect. Because one person says it, and then it just is like the game of telephone. It spreads like wildfire. So frustrating, but I'll try my best to combat it. And you can always come and ask. You can always message us, call us, tweet us, TikTok me.
Right.
Josh, what's the next question? Save me, buddy.
Well, I got one coming actually from YouTube.
All right. Yeah, YouTubers.
Yeah, they're wondering, do they get a double Snell rig on the overnight trip if they rent a rod?
If you rent a rod and reel on the overnight trip, on a 5-hour half day, 10-hour all day, even a 12-hour extreme trip, the captain and crew will help you tie up rigs. They'll tie them on for you. We really are there to cater to guests and really make it easy for guests because especially our 5-hour trip, it's like a beginning level angler's trip. And we're going to help everybody out like they are beginning anglers. 10-hour trip is kind of more intermediate anglers. We're going to help you out a lot, but we're also going to try to teach you a lot too. And we're still going to help you out a lot. Unless you don't want help, then, hey, do your own thing. The 12-hour gets to that next step up. We're still going to help you. We're still going to be there. We're still going to tie up rigs for you. We might not tie them all on. We might say, hey, there's a rig. You can tie it on if you know how to do it. If not, we'll be right over to help you. Whereas the 39-hour trip, that is an advanced angler's trip. The 44-hour is an advanced angler's trip. We provide the tackle if you rent a rod and reel, and we do a seminar on the ride out to talk about how to tie the double Snell rig, show you how to do it in person, show you the knots, show you how to use a venting tool, talk to you about using a de-hooker, all that good information. And then we show you where the tackle's at, we show you where the bait's at, and you're kind of left to your own devices for the most part. Now, if you get tangled up, if you need a fish gaffed, if you got a bunch of fish that need to be strung, If you have issues or you broke off your top shot and you need help with the line-to-line knot, the crew will still help you. They're not going to not help you, but they're going to be mostly focused on the safety of the vessel, keeping the fish iced down and sorted out and counted, and making sure they're helping everybody continue to fish, undoing tangles, gaffing fish, stringing fish, and icing fish, pulling more bait out, pumping the boat, pulling the anchor, dropping the anchor. That's their focus. But if you need help, they're there to help too. But you really should, before you do a 39-hour trip, you should really do a 5-hour half day or two, a 10-hour all day or two, a 12-hour extreme or two, and then do a 39-hour trip. If you've never fished offshore before, do not go from not fishing offshore before right to a 39-hour trip. You're not going to have as good of an experience. I always tell people the first trip has an extremely steep learning curve. And there's ways that you can take that steep learning curve and lower it. The best way is by doing trips. Do a couple 5 hours, do a 10-hour or two, do a 12-hour or two, and that learning curve on a 39-hour just went to a 45-degree angle. And then watch some videos. Stay tuned to our live show. Ask questions. Talk to other regulars that you see out there who know what they're doing. Talk to people on the 10-hour trips you're trying, the 12-hour trips you're trying. Pick their brains. And all of a sudden, you can lower that learning curve to the point where it's a very smooth first experience. If you don't want to do any of that and you just want to jump into it, fine. A lot of people do that and they have a great time. But it's all about expectations. So if you go into a 39-hour, never have been fishing offshore before, don't expect to come back with a cooler full of fish. You're going to catch some fish, you're going to have a good time, but you need to be patient, you need to watch out for others, be respectful of others, and know that everybody else on the boat is experienced anglers that have done multiple trips. So if they say, hey, you should really do this, or I recommend this, you should probably listen. And you should also try to stay out of their way as much as you can. Try to stay up to the front of the boat and watch and listen and pick up as many pointers along the way as you can, and set your expectations low, because then it's going to be a great experience. Or do, like I said, try a couple shorter trips, work your way up, watch a lot of videos, read the website. That one baffles me. People will come out and complain about things that are literally on the website like 20 times. And it's like, at first I was like, oh, really? You didn't see that? Like, how can I help you? How can we fix that for next time? But now it's like, I've been doing this for 10 years now, and every time I hear it, I list it a different way on the website. So now it's to the point where, like, the whole no cell phone thing is listed like 7-8 different places before you ever show up to the dock. So when someone gets to the dock and they're like, hey, I didn't know that, I didn't read it, and they want to argue and really get upset about it, I'm like, dude, I don't know how else we could tell you other than if you just let your buddy book a trip and never look at anything, then I don't know what else we could do. If you're not going to look at the website, you're not going to look at videos, you're not going to look at confirmation emails, there's going to be some things you don't know when you show up, and you can't be upset because you didn't do the research or you didn't even look at a confirmation email. You really got to try to keep that in mind if you're going into things, whether it's a fishing trip with us or if you're going on anything in the whole world. If you're not going to read your confirmation or at least glance at the website, you got to kind of come into it knowing there might be something that might surprise you. Funny. Comical. Josh, what other questions do we have? Any YouTube questions? I'll answer this one while you're looking. What can I expect on a 5-hour half-day trip in February? So the long-range trips, like 39-hour trips, 12-hour extreme trips, 44-hour trips, their catches kind of vary based on the time of year. Even 10-hour trips will vary a little bit based on the time of year. 12-hour night snappers, not really, because we only offer them at the time of the year where we can target mangrove snapper well. But a 5-hour half-day is the same all year round. We catch a bunch of the gray snapper or white grunts or Key West grunts, all the same fish by different names. Porgies, black sea bass you have a chance for, and then you have a chance for hogfish. Cooler months, you have a better chance for hogfish than warmer months. So I would say a 5-hour half day in February, you're going to catch a bunch of the gray snapper or white grunts, porgies, have a shot at black sea bass, and hopefully you'll catch a bunch of hogfish too. But pretty much the same fish year round on a 5-hour half day. Was there anything on YouTube?
Yeah, actually. Somebody asked, is there any good fish coolers, any new tech or anything out there?
The best cooler on the market is an Ingle cooler. They also make the best cups. I've been drinking out of Yeti cups because it seems like every time you go to somewhere, they always give you a Yeti cup. Probably because they're crap. I'm just kidding. Yeti cups are great too. I like my Yeti cups. But the Ingle cup is the same cup. I mean, it's not going to hold ice any better. I just personally prefer the screw-on lid, and then it's got the little top, the sippy cup top, so you can close it and put it in a cup holder, and it's not going to spill drinks going down the road in your lifted truck or going down the intercoastal on your boat. And best invention ever, it's got a little rubber thing on the bottom so you can be super stealthy in the morning and not wake up your infant, or it's not going to beat up your gel coat deck on your boat. So both really good features to someone like myself. So Ingle coolers is what I'd suggest. I got an Ingle cooler in the back of my truck. It will hold ice for about 14 days. It's pretty incredible. Even in the summertime, direct heat.
And just so you
Parking in direct heat for 12 hours in the day.
You guys know where Dylan parks his truck. Out in the sun, right there in that first spot. Always sunny, just beating down on it. And
now you know why my truck's always slowly leaking. There's always water dripping out of the bed of my truck. And that's because my Ingle cooler is sweating. But it weighs down the bed of my truck, and it's always super convenient to have ice in the back of your truck.
14 days.
And there might be bottles of liquor back there.
But if we catch you in the back, well, we won't say what
There is a camera over the truck, strategically placed, to watch my Ingle cooler and my liquor. Yeah, the infant remark, that's real, dog. I wake up in the morning and it's like I'm robbing the place. Don't breathe. Don't slam the kitchen's the fridge door. I mean, just tiptoe through the house. Half the time I get dressed in the garage, especially like when I wake up and my wife's feeding the baby and she looks at me and I'm like, oh, she had a rough night. Roll out of bed, sneak to the door. I love you, honey. I love you. Gone. Yeah, you gotta sneak out of the house because now we've got an infant who's a little more than 3 months old. Our son is a little more than 2 years old, and if you wake one of them up, they both wake up, and then you hear about it later.
It's a bad day for your wife.
Yeah, I feel so bad. She does so much for the kids, and
sorry, Em.
It's tough. It's tough driving away from the house knowing both kids are up.
Nah, that's when you just gas it. That way you don't.
And that's why, like, I'll set in when I have my Yeti cooler or Yeti cup in the morning. I'm like, got my pinkies underneath it, trying to set it on the granite countertop, all quiet. Now with the Ingle, they've got the little rubber thing on the bottom. I just, bam, slam it down on the counter. It's not loud. It's awesome.
I was wondering why you weren't using that one over there.
This one's water. That one's got booze in it. Bring a bucket. Yeah, the red tide is still around. That is true. Red tide's still around. It's spotty. Josh, do you have that pulled up still?
Yeah, I do.
Dude, this fucking thing makes me so upset. I censored myself, but I'm so upset because this is the source of so much frustration for me. Look at that. This is the forecast for red tide. There is no red tide forecasted. I don't see anything. Do you?
No.
And then 2 days from now, it will be all over. It'll be red and orange and yellow. It's literally the most infuriating thing ever. Oh, we shouldn't have shown it. Now I'm pissed off, Josh. I was in a good mood, and now I'm not, because this is good news, obviously, that there's no red tide forecasted. But don't get excited yet, because in 48 hours, they're going to totally change this, and it'll probably be back in John's Pass. And what's really frustrating is every time it clears up like this, like I said, 2, 3, 4 days later, it'll show back up, and it always shows up inside John's Pass as the most concentrated point is in John's Pass. And that seems to be kind of the trend, is it goes away, and then it will bounce right back as it went away. As fast as it went away, it'll bounce right back. But it's mostly been bouncing back basically from Bogosiega Bay north to like Clearwater in the intercoastal and along the beach. It hasn't been in Tampa Bay since really July. It's mostly been concentrated like I said, Bogosiega Bay north. It hasn't really been around Fort DeSoto bad. Hasn't been around Egmont Key, Shell Key bad. Anna Maria is showing a little bit, but I've heard nothing but good things out of Anna Maria. Tampa Bay overall has been beautiful. So I'm hoping that stays the same because Tampa Bay has had enough. Fort DeSoto is a huge estuary. It needs to stay clear. If we're going to have that red tide bouncing back and forth, I don't mind it being around the Narrows and intercoastal waterways because there's not a lot of estuary there as much as there is in Tampa Bay. This is good news. Like I said, I'm just hoping it stays that way. So the trick is to keep checking this. And when you guys find out that I can't go live for a few days because I broke my iPhone, it'll be because this completely changed tomorrow morning.
Or it was Josh's fault.
Or yeah, it was Josh's fault.
I have another question actually from YouTube. Do you recommend using live bait or artificial bait to fish underneath the bridge in John's Pass?
It depends. I mean, for me, I like using live bait a lot of the times because I'm just popping out there real fast and throwing a shrimp down because I am blessed to have a never-ending supply of shrimp, it seems, at the dock. So I like using live bait because it's easy to walk out there, throw on a shrimp, and see if they're biting, and if they're not, pull the shrimp off and get back to work. I love artificial baits, but it really makes it difficult to present artificial baits around these really fast-moving tides because basically I'm fishing a 2-foot space and I don't have room to cast, so you really almost got to just flip your bait and you only got a couple feet to work with. So live bait works really well for that reason. If I was fishing from like a seawall fishing a bridge, I would probably mostly use artificial baits because that gives me the flexibility to cast and present that bait naturally, cast kind of 45, 60 degrees away from the seawall, up current, and then retrieve that bait naturally with the current, making sure that it's presenting itself around that strike zone or ambush point where those fish are staged. But a live bait makes it really easy. If you're not super familiar with live or artificial baits, live bait makes it real easy because all you have to do is kind of cast it in that sweet spot and it does the rest of it. But it comes down to a lot of different factors of experience level of the angler, because an artificial bait's only as good as the person working it, and then also the area that you have to work with. If you got room to present a bait naturally, artificial baits are generally preferred when you're inshore fishing because it lets you cover more area. Like, for example, you don't see anybody go up to a grass flat and anchor up. They put in a trolling motor and they use their trolling motor to fish the whole flat, whether they're a charter guide and they're having their clients cast white baits out every few minutes, or it's a guide and his buddies casting artificials and they'll cover a whole flat in 10 minutes because they're just casting artificials, retrieving, and then moving on and casting artificials and retrieving, or moving a whole down a whole mangrove shoreline. Experienced anglers will cover a lot of water with artificial lures. So generally 9 out of 10 times I like using artificials unless it's a situation like the one we have at our dock where we don't have a lot of room and live bait works well. Question about bringing pinfish. I mean, you're welcome to bring pinfish, but with red tide around, we don't have pinfish because we can't keep them alive. It's not because we don't have someone to catch them. It's not because we don't want to catch them. We want to make it easy for you, but we cannot keep affording to go out and catch pinfish, to bring them back, to have them die, to go catch them again, to bring them back and have them die, and then have people show up upset that we didn't tell them we didn't have pinfish. So it's easier just to say, hey, we don't have them. There's red tide around, because getting them, keeping them alive at the dock is a trick, then putting them on the boat and then going out in the boat and running into a patch of red tide along the beach, and they all die. It's super frustrating. So.
Yeah, it's not like a grass patch or a garbage patch you see, you know.
No, it's something you don't see, you don't notice it until all the pinfish are dead, and then everybody's pissed, and we got to return all the money.
Sometimes
and the big guy still got to get paid because he already burnt the fuel and caught the bait. So it just it's a very tricky situation. So until red tide is cleared up, stays cleared up, our pinfish situation is going to remain the same. That we just don't have them. You're welcome to bring your own pinfish, but there's a good chance they won't make it out there. You can bring a bucket with an aerator. You cannot bring a live well with an external bait or with an external battery with alligator clips. No batteries go on that boat at all unless it's a D battery enclosed in a bubble box on a 5-gallon bucket. And I would recommend sticking to 1 dozen pinfish in a 5-gallon bucket, 2 aerators, and keep it in the shade out front in the waiting area until very last minute. Right before the trip, throw that bucket onto the boat and dump it in a live well and get rid of the bucket, or you can even leave it on the boat if you really want to. Wait till you're out there a little ways and then dump it in your live well. But definitely no more than a dozen and a half pinfish in a 5-gallon bucket with 2 aerators. Any more than that, you're just going to kill them all. Chewy bacon, that's disgusting. It's un-American. You gotta have crispy bacon. Crispy bacon and,
I know this again.
And steak and mushrooms, and not Waffle House. If you watched the Real Animals radio show or listened to the Real Animals radio show, Captain Mike Anderson likes eating at Waffle House, which is disgusting.
Wait, we can watch the Real Animals fishing show?
Yeah, man. It's streams live to the Real Animals Facebook page and the Hubbard's Marina Facebook page every Saturday morning, 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. And you can call in live to the show, 1-800-969-9352.
What do we call the Waffle House?
Awful House.
The Awful House.
Awful House. The only good time to eat at Waffle House is 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m., completely blacked out drunk. That is an acceptable time to eat at Waffle House. Outside of that, it is not acceptable.
Each his own, you know.
Cracker Barrel. If you're in a hurry, you want food fast, go to Cracker Barrel. Go to the mom and pop shop.
And what about the Village Inn?
Village Inn is dope. IHOP. Even IHOP. I like an IHOP.
I'll go to an IHOP before I go to a Village Inn.
But I will go to one of those like mom and pop backwoods. Like you get off the interstate and you look at that place and you're like, I might get killed in there, or I might have really good food. That's where I'd eat.
Downtown St. Pete, you know what's missing? So they used to have the Dome. Everyone has their own opinions in the Dome.
Tropicana?
No, the Dome restaurant that used to be down there. It used to be a breakfast place that was only open for a couple hours. They're missing.
When I was growing up, dude, it was the beach. Like downtown St. Pete was like Egypt.
North
of Park Boulevard might as well have been a different country.
Other than the Waffle House, there's really no 24-hour breakfast spots that you can go to and get breakfast at any time of the day.
The only time I did that, it was in college, and there was everywhere was 24 hours.
Yeah, but I mean, it was a college town, of course.
UCF. Orlando is awesome. When you're really drunk
Tammy makes the best egg and cheese bacon sandwiches on the 39-hour trips.
Dude, everything is better offshore. Everything is better offshore. It's incredible. Have you ever had a Bud Light onshore? I don't like Bud Light. But you get offshore, there's nothing sweeter than a Bud Light 100 miles from shore after catching a bunch of fish. Let me tell you. It's weird saying that because how much I dislike Bud Light onshore.
But you like it offshore.
Everything's better offshore. It's crazy. We are just about out of time. I did want to make sure that we thank our sponsors. Yamaha, shout out to Yamaha, Bass Pro Shops, Salt Strong, Salinity, and Engel Coolers. And also our friends, Real Animals. We're technically a Real Animals now, so I got to figure out how to say that, but check out the Real Animals Facebook fishing show every Saturday, 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. WFLA News Channel 970. Definitely check that out. It's a fun time. Also, they do a show Sunday mornings on 620 WDAE. T.A. Mahoney Company is the co-host of that one. Mike Mahoney, if you haven't checked out T.A. Mahoney's, highly recommend it. He's a great guy. He was my guest this Saturday. He is probably one of the coolest people in the fishing industry for sure. And we are going to work with Mike Mahoney, and we're going to try to do a fishing seminar here at the end of October, early November, with Mike Anderson, Mike Mahoney, and myself at T.A. Mahoney Company. Since Bass Pro Shops still won't let us do events there because of COVID, we're going to hold some events at T.A. Mahoney's until Bass Pro opens their doors back up. So it is what it is. And it'll be a great time in the meantime, because at T.A. Mahoney's, anything goes. If you haven't been there yet, you'll find out. You're going to find out today.
We're going to learn you today.
It's going to be a good time. We'll have food, we'll have drinks, and we'll have a great time for sure. So stay tuned for that date coming, again, end of October, early November, for the T.A. Mahoney's Real Animals Hubbard's Marina Fishing Conversation. It's going to be nuts. Don't forget to tune in again next week. We got another episode of our live stream show every Sunday night right here on the Hubbard's Marina Facebook page. Josh, let's find out who won our 39-hour trip. If you are a supporter, if you're a Facebook supporter, YouTube supporter, our supporters after show will be live at 9:50. We'll go live on YouTube and Facebook in our supporters only groups. If you want to become a supporter, you can do so tonight. As soon as the show ends, you can become a supporter right from our YouTube page or our Facebook timeline, either one. So check it out. And hopefully we'll see you again next week. Josh, let's see who won the 39-hour trip for one guest. 39-hour trip for one guest. Lucky winner is Willie Solowski. Congratulations, Willie. You are the lucky winner of that 39-hour fishing trip for one guest. There it is, one guest. Make sure you text us at that phone number in the bottom corner there within 5 minutes to claim that free trip. Hopefully we'll see you all in the supporters after show. Hopefully we'll see you next week for another episode of the live stream show. Don't forget, every Friday morning, Fox 13 News, 8:15 a.m. We've got our Real Animals radio show every Saturday morning, 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. And then our Sunday night internet show, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, every Sunday night, 8:30. Check us out, Pinterest, TikTok, Twitter, Snapchat, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, anything. Smoke signals. We got it all.
No. If it's a smoke signal, call the fire department. We're not going to put the fire out, okay?
Y'all have a great night. Don't forget, if you're too busy to go fishing, you're just too darn busy. Thanks for watching.